What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Early Wedge. Some of you probably coming off that Major League Baseball live stream that we just did. It was me and Mike and Tom Casale, A-Mags, and Sniper. We cashed the Toronto Blue Jays. Mike, I know you were just on Spotlight. I don't know if you were giving out golf plays or MLB plays or NASCAR, NFL. What was it and how you doing?
A lot of baseball today. So baseball on Spotlight. I'm good. I'm rolling through this golf data as we speak, locking in a lot of plays, starting to lock in some of my DFS exposures and getting ready for it. It's a very interesting tournament, to say the least here.
Yeah. Speaking of DFS plays, you can ask anything you want, whether it's DFS, ownership, roster construction. I always like having Mike on this show because his DFS brain is wired differently than most of ours. So he can maybe give you some different roster construction, some different ways to look at things. And by the way, Mike, I'm very much looking forward to Fantasy Football Today, DFS. We'll be doing shows for that really any time now, as we're 36 days away from NFL season. Chris Kish is in here. He says, the perfect do laundry before making dinner show. I don't disagree with that statement. I love watching all the sports content that's out there every single day, whether it be on SportsLine or HQ or anywhere else. I love doing that and doing chores at the same time. I usually have my AirPods in and I'm doing the dishes. I'm doing all kinds of things, multitasking. Mutandas, who I met at Yankee Stadium a few weeks ago for the Early Edge event. He says, back from vacation, happy to be here. Let's have a great show. Let's have a great show. You guys and girls have already put some questions in the chat. Keep those questions coming. Mike, I do want to ask you, when we went into this week, we do our Sunday kind of quick preview, and then, of course, Monday DFS show, Best Bets show. One of the central themes across our show and other shows is the extent to which the FedEx Cup point standings matter, whether you want to be in the top 70 or the top 50 or inside the top 30 right now, and what that means for the Wyndham Championship, what that's going to mean for the FedEx St. Jude. I think all of that stuff is super interesting, regardless of whether you think it plays into the Wyndham specifically. But what's your take on that? Like, are you paying attention to that kind of stuff in terms of crafting your Wyndham lineups, or is it just kind of just an interesting footnote for you?
More so footnote this week, but still definitely conscious of it. And particularly for some of the bigger names, while it's great to, qualify for all of the remaining events and be able to play the Tour Championship like that, that's certainly great. But there are a number of golfers that I personally think what's more significant from, either a potential earnings standpoint or sponsorship stuff, which is obviously potential earnings, being eligible to go play the signature events next season, that should be way more important for most of these guys here, because when we're talking about guys that are trying to sneak inside the top 50, it's unlikely that they're going to find elite form and go, win the Tour Championship, right? So what should be more important for them is not having disastrous results on the way in and locking in. Again, it's a significant piece of their future income if they're able to land inside that top 50 to be eligible for signature events.
Yeah. We've got, just so everybody knows, I mean, you talk about some big names that are, a lot of times we think of the FedEx Cup standings and we're just like, hey, you really want to be inside the top 70. And that's true because it gives you, continues to give you opportunities to gain points. But if you're looking at that top 50, and you can look at this for the top 30 as well, but that top 50, you got Jordan Spieth right at 50. So he could be very, very easily on the outside looking in, after this tournament, for example. Min Woo Lee's at 49. Wyndham Clark is at 48. Guys like Matt Fitzpatrick, 43rd, I think is interesting. But on the outside looking in, Bud Cauley, Joe Highsmith, which is kind of a funny name among some of these guys. Kurt Kitayama, let's see.
Tony now Ricky Fowler, like
60 and 61. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, this has pretty big implications for some of these golfers, whether you want to get in the top 70, 50, or 30. All right, Mike, let's get to some of these questions. First of all, I do want to thank everybody who gets in here early. You don't have to do that, but I do appreciate people putting in the questions, I don't know, like at 3:30 or 3 o'clock or whatever you decide to get into the YouTube chat, because it is an easy way to kick off the show when we know we're already going to have questions. Do you guys have any thoughts on Alex Norn asks Strange Brew? Mike, I know that yesterday on the Best Bets show, one of Jason Sobel's long shots was Alex Norn at 90-1. Now, I will I don't like Noren that much. I want to ask your opinion, but I do have to give Jason Sobel credit. He had Kurt Kitayama outright last week at 40-1. So credit to him. I saw what Noren did last week, and it was a lot of putter. I mean, a lot of putter. I don't know that I trust him, but he is. I mean, when Alex Noren is healthy, he is a high caliber player. Not the highest caliber, but a high caliber player. Did he fit into any of your constructions this week?
He has actually. So where I played him most is a lot of make the cut stuff, and some of the make the cut parlays, but I am getting to him a bit in DFS. And part of that is the ownership that I'm projecting. I'm projecting him around 8 to 9% owned, so single digits.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting him a little more than that. I'm getting him about 15% when I run a huge lineup pool. Which puts him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It puts him as a top 6 golfer for me in terms of who my computer is saying I should be overweight to the field on. He is one of the top 6. So he's very much in play. TBD on how much I put him in lineups, but I have a lot riding there on him to make cut.
Yeah. He was T38 here 2 years ago. That's all I have from him over the last 5 years. He hasn't been terribly inaccurate off the tee, so that's certainly helpful. He's one of those high risk, high reward guys. I wouldn't say high risk in the sense that like he's always at long odds and usually a pretty cheap DFS price. I think he's interesting. I think you're right from an ownership leverage standpoint. Maybe that's a guy to be overweight on. I'm going to be completely out on Alex Noren, but I don't mind the sentiment there from Mike. Brandon, any thoughts on this 3-ball? David Skins over Mac Meisner and Henrik Norlander, plus 190. Interesting number. Mike, David Skins has been pretty popular, especially with me over the last few weeks. I do like him. Meisner, when I did my initial run of stuff, Meisner popped a little bit, and Henrik Norlander has been bad, but I don't hate him as a play on a course like this, guy that can get hot on approach. However, that plus 190 number does speak to me a little bit. Do you like this at all, Mike?
Honestly, I don't, but
yeah,
if you've got something to like here, I'm not going to try and talk you out of it here. To be honest, like none of these guys are rating well for me. So when I get situations like this, like I get enough action down via DFS and the betting markets and things like that, that I really don't, I don't have much of an opinion here. They're just 3 players that aren't remotely close to making it into my player pool.
Yeah.
So if you like it, plus 190, sure. The thing that I would generally caution against but recommend is if you're optimistic on David Skins, just find ways to play him individually, whether it's round scores, DFS, make the cut. I'd love to know what his make the cut number is because I'll be able to find it here in a second.
I will say,
make the cut is plus 115. I would simply back him to make the cut.
Okay, fair enough. The thing that's interesting is I do like the plus 190. And Henrik Norlander, like Skins doesn't have good history here, nor does Henrik Norlander, but Mac Meisner kind of does. And Mac Meisner flashed a little bit last week. So if there was somebody that I thought would quote, not upset David Skins, it would be probably Mac Meisner there. But again, I think the plus 190 is pretty good. So I'm okay with that. But again, I agree with Mike. I'm not necessarily like running out to bet it. But again, plus 190, I would be a little worried about Mac Meisner, though. Okay, thoughts on Ryan Fox, 7,700, and Brian Campbell, 6,600. Ryan Fox has come up a lot, Mike, with a lot of people, and that's because he's a really good player. But I don't know that this is the greatest course for him. But again, very solid player, and in this field, he could absolutely flash. How do you feel about him just in general and also at 7,700? And then we'll get to Brian Campbell later.
I don't mind it. I'm not playing Ryan Fox. He's not close for me. And in DFS, I don't know if this is a DFS or betting question. I do know sometimes I'm not the smartest in the world. Sometimes I'm very smart. When you put pricing like that, it's obviously a DFS question. So in DFS, I'm not interested in Fox at that price point in DFS. If you watch the DFS show, and then we'll reiterate some of those names, there are just so many guys in that 7K range, and some of them are coming at single digit ownership for me. That I can't get to Ryan Fox on this course at that price.
Well, let me ask you this, because one thing I'm seeing, and I'm looking at different ownership numbers than you, which I'm actually happy about, because we can kind of cross-reference our stuff. I see Ryan Fox at a pretty low ownership number, which surprises me. So I almost feel like the number I'm looking at might not be what the same number, like the number that you're looking at. What are you seeing for Ryan Fox right now?
3%.
See, that's the thing. Somebody who's not a great course fit, and I don't think Ryan Fox is a good course fit, because I think accuracy off the tee, he could find some trouble. But if he's going to be that low, and you've got guys like Christian Bezuidenhout, who I like, Chris Kirk, who I like, that are going to be 4 or 5 times the ownership, especially in Seabez's case. Granted, there are other pivots to make, but it does feel like a guy, just from a pure talent standpoint and win equity standpoint, maybe because the ownership is so low, maybe it ends up being a play.
Yeah, no, it's certainly a play there. And the problem that I have with it, though, again, for me, like if you like Fox, never going to say you can't play him at 3%. Like, absolutely. The fortunate scenario that I find myself in here is that there's 2 guys that we've talked about a lot the last 2 weeks. It's Emiliano Grillo, and for me, Kevin Roy. And I'm projecting Kevin Roy at 2.5%.
Wow.
I'm projecting Emiliano Grillo at 6%. Both of those guys that are 7K guys that I like are going to be single digits. The combination of the 2 of them still going to be extremely low. So because of that, while Fox is also in that boat, and if you like Fox, go play with it. But for me, I am so much higher on those other 2 guys, and I have zero concern about their ownership levels that I don't need to go make a play like that.
Yeah, that's fair. I will say this, and again, your numbers might be better than what mine are ownership wise, and they will change over the course of the night. I do have Grillo a little higher than you, Roy pretty much the same, but just pointing it out, it's not going to be like Seabez high, but I do think they're going to end up being some people on Grillo, because I know he's on some betting cards, including mine as well. Any thoughts on Brian Campbell? Guy's won twice. He's accurate. I mean, like, what's the problem here?
So he's won twice for sure. Let's see where no one's going to play him. I'm projecting him at less than 1% owned.
Wow.
I have him about the same. So not a strong, I mean, it's hard to have a negative value on less than 1%. Like if I have him at 0, it's still going to be a pretty minimal negative value from the computer. But the thing that I will admit, that if I have his projected number at 0.8 and I'm not getting like 2%, then I'm also nowhere near playing him.
Yeah.
So he's won twice. I think, again, the issue that I come back to, Sia, is Kevin Roy, 2% owned at 7K that I love. Emiliano Grillo, even if Grillo gets steamed to 12, 13%, he's not going to surpass Bezuidenhout, who's $300 cheaper and probably 20 to 25% owned.
Yeah.
I just don't have room for him in my lineups unless you're intentionally leaving a bunch of salary.
And as far as Seabez is concerned, and again, you don't have to get contrarian everywhere, okay? But his ownership's probably going to, because everybody knows, if you watch the early edge, I'm on Seabez in the top African market. I have him as a first-round leader for tomorrow. Like I may be considering another play on him. I'm going to do one of your things, Mike, where I play Seabez in the betting market, and I'm probably, just because he's going to be highly owned, and there's so many other guys that can play well as well that are going to be like a 5th or a 4th of the ownership, I'll probably end up fading him largely. Any thoughts on that?
I like it a lot. And another thing that I've started to do, I've started to play a few more make the cut parlays in these kind of events.
Yeah.
And where I think it would be appropriate, if you're worried about Seabez's ownership in DFS being a little too high and not fitting, but still liking, I think it's okay to find the guys that are going to be popular that could, hurt you if they go win the event. But if you want to parlay a couple of those together and essentially treat it as another DFS lineup, is what I like to do there. And you're essentially going to get some payout on it and really get some protection on your overall portfolio of it. It's something that I've started to do quite a bit more. I actually have 15 separate make the cut bets and parlays this week.
That's amazing.
Kind of as an extension of the DFS portfolio. One of them, I know I'm on a tangent here, but I'll give it to you because I think it's interesting. Again, this is not something I would normally have done or be recommending, but I have some strong values on certain players to make the cut. want to give you, there's a couple of 6-man ones, right? So plus 613 is the payout on this. It's 6 players. So you can put 6 golfers in a DFS lineup. These guys don't all fit, but Keegan Bradley, Matt Fitzpatrick, Robert McIntyre, Jordan Spieth, Akshay Bhatia, Ricky Fowler. That pays plus 613. A little over 6-1. I mean, much better than a minimum cash in a DFS. And you're getting the option of a minimum cash lineup, but that lineup leaves, you'd need an extra $8,000 of salary just to be able to play that lineup, right?
Yeah.
So just little ways to get 6 of 6s. And I've been playing with a lot, and the math on it checks out on quite a few of these.
It's interesting too, because I mean, again, you talked about you're the one calculating the math here, but even if there was one of those 6 players that you were like, I'm really iffy on, like Jordan Spieth or Robert McIntyre out here. Okay, take one of them out. You're still probably getting like plus 350 or something close to plus 400 on it, right?
Oh, definitely. And that's kind of what I meant with Seabez. If you're not going to play Bezadenhout in your lineup, but want to play make the cut, I believe his make the cut numbers minus 190. If you've got another player that just doesn't quite get there for you in DFS, but you're worried because the field is there, I mean, you're going to be getting plus 130, plus 140, treated as another lineup in DFS at the same price point on your buy-in. I think it's actually a fine strategy at this point in the season.
Okay. Love that. I think the make the cut stuff, I've been doing a lot of the finishing position parlays, which again are like 80 and 100 to 1. I'm putting like $2 or $3 down on them. I do think that these make the cut parlays, the way Mike laid it out, is one of the ways to go for sure, just from a pure betting standpoint. We got a lot of questions in the chat. You can keep the questions coming. Of course, hit the like button as well. We're going to get to Faustino 8466 next. He says, let's get this party started. But before we get to his question, let's hear a quick message from our partners.
Here we go. The 2025 CBS Sports NFL schedule is here. 18 glorious Sundays.
He's got his receiver touchdown.
Filled with rematches.
Oh, the play of the year.
And rivalries.
Touchdown, Bengals.
Plus, plenty of superstar showdowns. And an epic matchup between the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Clear your Sundays beginning September 7th for the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
We're back on the Early Wedge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. We come at you on the Early Wedge 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which is right now, of course, and Sunday. That show has really started to take off. That's at 10:30 in the morning. We give out our live bets for round 4, and we preview next week's tournament, all in about an hour. Really, really good show and a great cast with me and Mike and Jason Sobel and Patrick McDonald. Joseph Boza says, actually, I can't go to Joseph Boza. I was just repping Faustino. Faustino says, am I crazy? I have one of my DFS lineups only using 42,200. Mike, your response?
I don't think it's crazy. I think it was better suited for last week or the week before. I don't think it's crazy. You will see oftentimes that will end up being an optimal lineup. My personal problem with it is I actually kind of agree with the pricing at the top this week. Most specifically having guys like Fitzpatrick. I guess let me sort it out. Yeah. Fitzpatrick, Keegan, Griffin, and then like in the upper range, McIntyre. I think that it's more likely that those guys are at least going to be, one or two of those guys will be in the top 5 of the leaderboard. And if that's the case, you're probably not going to be in great shape with that, but you certainly can cash there. I think it's a little extreme though, essentially leaving 7,800.
It does seem extreme. What's interesting though, it's clear that he just made his lineup and that's what it came out to be. In other words, he wasn't intending on making a lineup that was short that much money. And I do think if you're fading the top of the board, that it's almost inevitable that you're going to have like 45,000, 44,000, and that's a wrap.
So here's what I would recommend on this for sure. We just talked about make the cut parlays. If you're leaving that much salary on a make the cut parlay, I would venture to say that make the cut parlay is going to pay a little over 10 to 1. And it could be as much as 13, 14 to 1. If that's the case, I would enter that because your lineup at 42-2 is not winning you any money without a 6 of 6, period. So you can go 6 of 6, turn that into 10x, while you could be 6 of 6 here and maybe 2 extra money if one of the big guys wins this tournament, right? So it's fine to go ahead and keep the lineup in, but if you love this lineup and really have a lot of confidence in it, just play a make the cut parlay because you're not winning anything at 42-2 without a 6 of 6 lineup.
Fair enough. Joseph Boza says, hey, Matt Fitzpatrick's been the favorite this entire week at plus 2,000 in most places. Is this the week to bet him, or do we look down the betting board? And Mike, I see you wrote a response in the chat, but go ahead on Matt Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I ultimately did bet it. I made that call this morning and put it in, but I did play it. And again, it kind of speaks to me agreeing with the pricing in this spot. So my number that I have on it is plus 1750. So I was kind of expecting this to be plus 1700 in this field. It's obviously not. So at plus 2000, I did make a play here.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been a big Matt Fitzpatrick fan, especially across the pond. I had him at the Scottish. I had him at the Open, and I had him at the Open in the without Big Four market. And I thought I was cashing that ticket, frankly, on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I was feeling really good about that, and then not so much on Sunday. Mike, my thing is, especially from an outright standpoint, like Matt Fitzpatrick's playing great. I don't know that this is the right course for him at that number, but I also think that sometimes I'm just overthinking it. And Matt Fitzpatrick is playing better than most of the people in this tournament, and pedigree-wise is better than most of the people in this tournament. So, like, I completely get betting it. I'm just not getting there.
Yeah. And look, I think you still have opportunities live if you want to jump in and grab some exposure. The thing that's sneaky about this event is you lack some name value in the form of Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, but it's actually a solid field. And when you look at that, I think that numbers like that are going to kind of exist a lot longer. So if Matt Fitzpatrick goes out there and is the first round leader, I still don't think you're getting the price point's not going below plus 600, plus 650 at best. Right. So it's not a situation where you're just completely locked out if you watch him go play well round one. Just kind of it's a sneaky good field here.
I tweeted out earlier this morning that there's very few tournaments over the year where I am, and I don't know that this is the perfect tournament to do this, but this is what I decided to do because all my outrights were kind of like further down the board, like in the sort of long shot-ish category, which is what I did at the Amex. And so when I do that, and I don't have as much invested in my outrights, I always save some room to like have an official play post flop, if you will. That's what I'm doing here. I did that at the Amex as well. And on Thursday night, I tweeted out to everybody, Sepp Straka 50-1. He ends up winning the Amex. So I'm kind of hoping to pull that off post flop this week as well. So just kind of stay tuned to SportsLine Discord, but certainly my Twitter profile as well, where probably Thursday after the round, I'll probably put that play out there. And it could be Matt Fitzpatrick at a shorter number potentially. We'll have to wait and see. Doreen Castle says, does Rosner make the cut again? Cut machine? I don't see why not. Again, maybe not the best course fit, maybe not the most accurate off the tee, which is something that we're all stressing here, but just being accurate off the tee doesn't get you to the cut line, right? So your thoughts on Antoine Rosner? Did you cross any paths with him this week?
Not that I know of. I'll check and give you exactly where I'm at. It doesn't rate horribly. Like the approach play is good. Can't putt at all. And that's, to me, is going to be a problem. I will say no, but I'll check the DFS angle and see if there's anything there. Nope. I have, okay. I am way off on Rosner. Not remotely close. I tell the computer to build 5,000 lineups. He makes it into 0.3%, which is 13 out of 5,000. And his ownership at 0.9%, I am meaningfully below. So no, I will not have any Rosner.
Yeah, I'm not going to have any Rosner as well. Let's see. Victor Rivera says, would you say that there's a significant wave advantage for players teeing off before potential storms on Thursday? Also, C has been on Mao and he's playing great. He's pointing out that he's 80th in the FedEx Cup standing. So I'll address the Mao part first. He's one of my long shot outrights. In fact, I actually took him instead. Lipsky and Mao are like two like big long shots for me. I actually got Lipsky Sunday night at 450-1. By the next morning, it was 170, 120-1, depending on where you look. But I also took Mao, and believe it or not, I took him in the without market, without Big Five. I took Mao. That number was still 110-1, which I liked. So I was willing to discard those top five on the odds board. But I do like Mao. Mike, I don't think there's going to be a wave advantage. There's rain. We don't know if there's going to be electricity, but the wind Thursday and Friday seems to be mostly down both days, unless I missed something over the last few hours. Did I? What do you think about a wave advantage?
I think there's a slight wave advantage.
Okay.
I have a preference for morning.
Okay.
Now, just because I think on the Friday PM side, I think it's a little early to say that we're for sure going to get like aggressive rain downpours, like aggressive thunderstorm. I think it's just a little far out. So I'm leaning into Thursday morning a little bit more than Thursday PM.
Okay. So in other words, AM, PM would be the wave advantage you'd be calling for?
That's the wave advantage I'm calling for, just slightly. I think other sources may kind of dispute that or have it even. But that's the one I'll be leaning into. And, tee time stacking is always an interesting correlation. I think whether you're talking that or just betting head to heads, I think their tee times in terms of playing partners matter a lot. The guys that I really like, Emiliano Grillo, Kevin Roy, both very early morning tee times. So I liked to see that. I think there's some slight advantage in events like this that are just true birdie fests to if you have a Thursday morning tee time and the conditions are good for that Thursday morning, I think there's some psychological advantage to going out there and getting 3, 4, 5, 6 under par as opposed to not. So just, it's a psychological thing. It probably doesn't impact a lot of players, but for me, it matters. And I think for some of these lower to mid-level golfers, I think it matters quite a bit.
Okay. And let's see. The question for Mike. By the way, Grillo is one of my first round leaders. I have 5 that I put out on the Best Bets show yesterday. I'm going to be on HQ, Mike. I might be on it with you tonight.
We are. Yep.
Okay. And so I just FYI, one of the first questions I know to be first round leader. So I'll be giving them out there. But Josh, if you want to pull them up from the Best Bets show, it's Grillo, it's Kirk, it's Svensson, it's Lipsky, and I think it's Christian Bezuidenhout. Most of those are morning tee times. I know Lipsky's in the afternoon. Yeah, he's the only one in the afternoon. Okay. A question for Mike. Round score props. He asks, this is from Mutandas. Do you ever take them prior to round 4? I think the answer is yes to that. If so, how do you cap it? I like having watched the course and the players before firing.
Okay. Okay, perfect. I wanted to see it. Take them prior to round 4? Yeah, no, I take them. Sometimes I'll take them pre-tournament. Like I'll take them before round 1. And some of that, while I do get the thing that I would caution about, needing to see more data, you're just giving sportsbooks and other players more data. And when you're talking about the sportsbook, they have a difficult job because they have to assign a number for every player. But when you open it up and wait longer, you give the market time to go make bets, which allows them to make numbers significantly more efficient. So if you think you've got an edge on anything, you're far better off betting immediately and essentially being the one to shape the market rather than waiting to bet into it when it's more data for you, which is good for you. There's no disputing that. You're just betting into a much more difficult market when there's more data available.
Yeah, there's going to be more efficiency to the market once the sports books have more data, not only from the bettors, but just more data in general with what's going out on the course. And I think he's asking that question because he watches our Sunday show. Right. And usually you come to, we talk about finishing positions on that show, live outrights, all of those things Sunday at 10:30 on the SportsLine YouTube channel. But you a lot of times talk about round props you like, and you are, because that shows at 10:30, you are using some data from earlier in the morning. Yes. But usually when things change, you mention it. You're like, we're kind of late to the party here, but right. This was a round score of 70.5. Now it's 71.5 or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, he's doing that. He's sometimes on the early edge giving out round props as well. So Mutandas, you've probably seen that. All right, let's see. Any round 1 matchups to target? Mike, I don't know if you have any. I gave out a 3-ball this morning, and it was kind of a quirky one. It was Paul Peterson at plus 180, and I'm going off memory here. Paul Peterson plus 180 over whoever was in his 3-ball. I've been doing so much with the baseball live streams and so many other things. I can't remember. It was Quade Cummins was one of them. Oh, and Stephen Fisk was the other one. Stephen Fisk was basically in that 180 range, and Quade Cummins was like plus 210. And my thought process there, again, it's a 3-ball at plus 180. So I mentioned on the early edge this morning, I'm not putting a full unit down on it, was that Paul Peterson is the most accurate guy off the tee in this entire field. And he's been pretty good on approach. Other than last week, he's been pretty good on approach. Certainly a shorter hitter. That shouldn't really be too much of a problem. He can get hot with the putter. Fisk and Cummins, not quite as efficient off the tee, and just their game altogether hasn't been very good. I like the short game for Paul Peterson over these two as well. So right now, that's the only round one matchup to target for me. I'll have another one on the early edge tomorrow morning. Mike, anything, whether it's round props or a matchup that you like for Thursday morning?
I generally would say the guys that were like significantly higher on than the market. So the base good lesson here, I suppose, if you're, especially if you're using a number to model out and you're coming to some sort of number that says, okay, I have to play this guy because the market has him at 80 to 1. I make him 50 to 1, 60 to 1, whatever your threshold is, right? If that is true for you, you're very likely to want to bet the round score under in round one. You're above the market across the board, right? So wherever you, and I know a lot of people don't necessarily like that because you're getting a lot of exposure to, situations, but that's where I would be. I think a fascinating one for me is going to be Grillo. I'll be way above market on him. So I'll be betting his round score under. I'll bet him in matchups, depending on where he's at. One that I haven't bet that I'm just glancing at, it looks like it exists. I like Lucas Glover this week. He's great. He's fantastic. I don't think Lucas Glover should be minus 175 against Luke Clanton in a single round of golf or in a 4-round golf tournament. So it depends on where you've got him. I'll try to isolate some round one matchups for anyone that may pop here. I'm fading Cam Young. It looks like I'm getting the computer wants me to, at least I'm getting a lot of negative on Cam Young matchups. But admittedly haven't tackled a ton of them. I've started playing way more individual round scores than head-to-heads personally.
Okay. Chris Schelt says, hey guys, had a team last week with Kurt Kitayama, Sam Stevens, and Jake Knapp. That's great. But Grazerman killed a contest winner. Should I go back to him this week? So Mike, I'm a big Max Grazerman guy. I feel like I was one of the ones that was first to market on him earlier this year. I didn't like him last week. I don't really like him this week either. What are your thoughts?
I don't like him this week. Guy can't hit a fairway right now. Right. And if you're not hitting a fairway, you're in trouble here. And if you're not hitting a fairway, you better be the best putter.
He's a great putter, but he's not playing well either, just in general.
Right. Yeah, it's not a good situation there. Like I think that, does he have the talent to go win or give you a winning DFS lineup? Yes, there's no question. I'd like to see some better result. And again, just the one thing that I need for you this week, particularly if you aren't playing well in other areas, you have to hit fairways and greens in regulation. You're going to be a big uphill battle in an event where it's relatively easy to score.
Yeah. I mean, he was second here last year, but I'm not using that course history to be like, all right, I definitely need to play him. I mean, Ben On was second a couple of years ago in this tournament. And actually I considered using him as a first round leader, but guys flash all the time and they still might not be the best course fit. Let's see. How often does Alex Smalley come up in your model, Mike? So this is the second time I've heard a question about Alex Smalley. I'm not on him at all. Mike, how about you?
Let's just see. I'm close. I have a slight positive value, so which means I would be fine playing him. I am showing him around 5.5% owned. I'm getting him at 6.2% when I have it build 5,000 teams. So just a slight positive value. May not tell you a lot, but certainly not negative. No idea if I'm going to end up playing him in a lineup. But if there is a lineup that the computer gives me that I really like, I would not play it because his name was in it.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'm out on Smalley, but I have the same ownership numbers that I'm looking at there too. Al says, thoughts on Bud Cauley and DFS this week. So I think Bud Cauley is maybe one of 3 or 4 names, Mike, that I'm not sure what to do with, because I know that classic Bud Cauley, which is the Bud Cauley, of 5 months ago, as opposed to the Bud Cauley from the last 2 months, is a guy that should be great here. And I think his upside is pretty great. So to me, if you're doing, he wouldn't be in my primary lineup personally. But if I'm doing a handful of lineups, I do feel like being overweight on Bud Cauley makes a little bit of sense. Did he make it with your lineup construction?
He has. Yeah, he's in my player pool kind of firmly. I think he's an excellent pivot. I know he's not the same price, but an excellent pivot if you're going to play Bezuidenhout and just didn't want the ownership exposure. I think he's a good pivot. I like them both, though. I'm going to play both of those guys in some capacity, probably. I'm getting good numbers, though, on Bud Cauley. I think the field's going to have him between 7 and 8%, but firmly at single digits. And I'm getting about 8.6%. So I'm right there. He's one of the positive values for sure in terms of like players that could be in a player pool here. He's inside my top 15.
I think he's a great DFS play. And what I mean by that is you have to understand what you're shooting for in DFS, which is the upside of Bud Cauley. And you can't really get mad if, again, it's DFS. We're trying to spike, right? If he's going to be that type of ownership because he's not in good form, but we know he could return to that form, you got to be able to accept the floor, but you got to know what the ceiling is. And I think Bud Cauley does have a pretty great ceiling. Brandon says 3-ball Seabass over Davis Thompson and Nico Echeverria at plus 160. That was one I was going to give out this morning, Brendan. I didn't really want to be too over invested because on the early edge, I had already given out Seabass as the top African play at plus 150. I want to isolate in 3-ball matchups as opposed to 3-balls. You can actually go on DK has the 3-ball matchup option. I kind of like Seabass over Davis Thompson there. I think I like it over Nico Echeverria as well, but I do think Echeverria could have a good round and score. He's good on Bermuda. Seabass over Davis Thompson at minus 120 was something I was looking at. But Mike, any thoughts here? This does look pretty good at plus 160.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I don't play a lot of 3-balls, admittedly, but if it's certainly the only option I would play in that one.
Fair enough. All right. Al's got another question. Batia, Hall, and Glover. Pick one for this week in DFS. Go ahead, Mike.
For me, it would be Akshay. I'm meaningfully above the field on Akshay. The only one who's higher for me is Emiliano Grillo, who I know I'm way higher than market on. But to be higher than market on Akshay, who is 9K, that's making a really strong statement. So I'm showing Akshay probably 15 to 16% owned, and I'm getting him at 30% in my lineups, which is crazy. I think he's actually the guy I'm getting most. He is. Akshay Bhatia at 30.5% is the highest value for me. So he's the guy I'll have the most of this week.
Okay. It would be Glover for me, and I might play a little of Akshay. I'm actually fully fading Harry Hall. His ownership is fine. It's probably going to be in that 15, 16% range, but I'm not sure this is the course for him. So I'm going to be out on Hall. I'll probably be in on Glover to some degree. Any thoughts on Svensson? I assume you mean Adam Svensson, but you very well could mean Jesper Svensson. So we'll answer both. He's not finished 7th. He's finished 7th the last 2 years. Okay, so you're talking about Adam, and he's 150 to 1. Svensson, is he one of my? Yeah, he's one of my first round leaders. I think he could absolutely pop just like he did last week. Do you have any thoughts on Adam Svensson, Mike?
Not a lot. I definitely could pop. He's popped at times. I'm extremely neutral there, though. Not someone I would play in DFS. Not someone that I'm going to have in any sort of market.
Okay. Chris Kish has a DFS oriented kind of a global question, which I think is a very good one. Mike, I'll let you kick this one off. He says, would you rather have 6 players at 15% or 2 players at 35% and 4 at 5%? He says he debates this a lot. So like, where do we want to, I know a lot of people look at like the global ownership, but it is better to have the 2 highly owned guys and then like 4 guys that are going to give you leverage, right?
Generally, yeah. I trusted him, but just quickly in my head, making sure he was 90 on both. He is, so that's good. Yes, 90% overall ownership. We do care about that overall number a bit more than some of the others, but generally speaking, it really just comes down to where you're at on those 35% players. Like, do you clearly agree that they should be that highly owned? Then if you do, I would prefer strongly to be at that one at that point.
All right. Bo Connor says, see, I always try to tell you your picks. It seems like they normally are not on Hard Rock, though. Okay, so Bo, you live in Florida. It is a big ask, but could you do a pick selection of matchups that are on Hard Rock for us? So that's the thing, Bo. I don't even look at Hard Rock, and here's why. Maybe I could. I've never even like logged into their platform at all. When I'm putting out picks, I'm trying to put out picks for where most people have access to them. And that's usually, to me, it's like the big three: BetMGM, DK, and FanDuel. If you have a pick, though, and people do this all the time, if you have like a set of picks that you're considering, or there's like just a handful of matchups, you can screenshot and maybe send them to me or tag me in a post or try to message them to me or something like that. And I can just look at them and tell you whether there's one I like or not. But it's just one of those things where until Hard Rock is in more states than Florida, there's just not a lot of incentive for me to look at that, because it's not serving the people that most of the people that want to look at the picks. Faustina says, my low salary lineup converted into a make the cut parlay pays 14-1, Mike. That's not
There
bad.
you go. No, 14. I mean, yeah. So 14-1. Go look at your DFS contest you're playing and look where you would have to finish with that lineup to finish 14, to get a 14x return, right?
Right.
Depending on what contest you're playing, I mean, you're going to have to be very, very good, far, far beyond those golfers just simply making the cut.
Very, very true. That's a really, really good point. Xavier82 says, where do y'all have Andrew Novak? I don't think I'm using Andrew Novak, but I do kind of like his upside. He says that he follows Wes Reynolds. We know who Wes Reynolds is, and Wes has Andrew Novak on his outright card. Mike, any thoughts on Andrew Novak? I feel like he's one of those guys. He's not like Bud Cauley. He's a different type of player, but it's one of those guys that could absolutely spike for you. But he's kind of been lost in our consciousness. He had that like slight injury, I think, to his pec, and he hasn't been really playing the last few weeks. Any thoughts on Novak?
I have a soft spot in the heart for Novak. I want to say he helped me win 30K the other week, but when no one played him.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I've got some bias baked in, but I do have a positive value on him, and there's no bias. I'm looking at the number. I did not manually manipulate his projection in any way this week, because he is that far out of my mind. But I'm showing a positive value. In fact, he's like top 10. So he's firmly in my player pool. Very possible that I play him, at 7,300. I think he's going to be 5 to 6% owned. Computer's giving me 8.5%. So I have a great value on, Andrew Novak here.
Novak makes a lot of sense in DFS. Al says, is Fitz and Griffin too much salary in one DFS lineup? Well, there's no such thing this week, in my opinion, Mike.
Definitely not. You can build a ton of extremely, extremely good lineups. Fitz and Griffin. I'm not going to give you a full lineup, but put it in Fitzpatrick, Ben Griffin. You have 7,300 left. I mean, my two favorite guys are Grillo at 75, Kevin Roy at 7K. You now have 7,400 for the last two spots. I mean, we haven't talked about Bezadenhout, who is only 7,200. There's just Bud Cauley's in there 75. Like, you could play any of those guys. Novak, we just talked about. So no, it is not too much. It's actually probably what wins this tournament, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys in the 6K range that probably don't belong in the 6K range that you could play, and then get that 7,400 that you have left with, whatever, up to like 78, like David Lipsky. Again, these are some of these guys are going to be somewhat popular, but Adam Svensson, if you think he's going to pop, Doug Gim is down there. Some other guys that people like, Ben Coles, I think, is interesting. Brian Campbell is down there. Carson Young is down there. David Skins, Paul Peterson at 6,200. So like, there's so much you can do. You don't have to go to the 6K range. The point I'm making is you can do those two guys and live in the low 7K range, or you can do those two guys, take two 7K guys, and then take one 6K guy and get yourself back up to 8,000. Like, just the pricing's soft enough. You can kind of do whatever you want. Jeff Hockstedt says, do you like McCarthy, Grillo, top 20 parlay at 12-1 on DK? Mike, your thoughts? We know you like Grillo, but what about?
I like the Grillo side. So this is an interesting one. I'm so high on Grillo that parlaying Grillo with anyone that's not a massive negative value is going to show up as a positive value for me. I'm not high on McCarthy. I know others are, and it makes sense. I certainly get it. For me, just doesn't hit enough fairways. But yeah, I'm going to show a positive value on it because I'm so high on Grillo.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not playing Denny. I think Denny's sneaky, but I'm not playing him in DFS or in the betting market. Let's see. Danny Logsden says, when I look at strokes gained on the short positional courses, I see Novak has had a great year on them. Pebble, Colonial Harbortown. Yeah, maybe, Mike, that's why you're showing such great value on him as well.
Yeah, definitely. And he's just an all-around golfer who has drastically changed. I mean, we're going to start saying the same thing and already have about a guy like Chris Gotterup. Like anything from more than like 6 months ago, just completely removed. It's not the same player. I firmly believe that is the story on Novak as well. So yeah.
Novak is a guy that listen, it's not like I didn't see him on the betting card and on DFS, but he's one of those guys that I just kind of like just passed over. It's just like, I don't want to, like, I'm just not going to do the Novak thing this week. But that's why I love these shows, because now I'm not going to bet him. It's not going to be on my outright card all of a sudden, but like I'm going to have to include him in some lineups because I really, truly like his upside. Daniel Logston also has another question. Mike, who are two guys you have warmed on the most as the week has progressed?
So I've been very consistent and high on guys like Grillo, Batia, Kevin Roy. One guy for sure that is way higher than I thought. Middling price point, probably going to be single digits still. I've warmed a lot on Ricky Fowler. I think I might actually play a Ricky Fowler lineup. I don't think many people are going to live in that 8K range, mid 8K range. There's just elite options in the 10s. So for me, it's simulating very well, projecting really well. So Ricky Fowler, I guess, would be the number one answer there. Number two, this one's tough, but believe it or not, it's Robert McIntyre.
Wow.
And I haven't played a ton of Bobby Mack in my DFS play. I'm getting a strong value on him. He's going to be popular, and that was my concern, right? He was going to be super popular. I'm getting a lot of Bobby Mack, and I'll tell you why. I think so many people are going to play the $300 less for Aaron Rai that they're also going to be very similar in ownership. I feel a lot better about the overall skill set for McIntyre here. And I think he has, this isn't a crazy statement, but I think he clearly has the same kind of upside as Fitzpatrick, Ben Griffin, or Keegan, right? So that I'm going to have a lineup that kind of skips that 10K where I do think those guys are good. But I have a lineup that's probably going to be like Bobby Mack and Fowler together, which is going to be a super unique build.
I'm kind of warming on Ricky Fowler as well. Are you playing any Keegan or Ben Griffin, or at least a decent amount? I know you don't play a ton of lineups, but
yeah, I'm only going to play 3, and I admittedly don't have any of them in yet. But no, I'm not playing either of them, I don't think. Let me tell you, because my favorite part of the show is telling people where I'm way above and where I'm way below market. The spot that I am way below is Siwoo Kim is my number 1 negative.
Interesting.
Lucas Glover is my number 2 negative. Now, this is what I need to preface, though. I'm still getting almost 15% Lucas Glover, and that's a big negative. Lucas Glover is going to be anywhere from 22 to 30% owned. That is too high for me. I'm very even at 15% is one of my biggest negatives. It's possible he's in one of my 3 lineups, right? Because I won't exclude him at that point. I would just, if you're playing a bunch, I would be under the field there. And Keegan Bradley is number 3 under for me. I have him at 17%. But again, the problem, computer and the public, they're going to be over 20% on this guy.
So Mike, you and I we're about to start. We do this show, of course, but we do the early edge together, like every Monday at 10 in the morning. You're on a lot of those shows, but we're going to do Fantasy Football Today DFS together starting very soon, where we break down every single week. We break down the DFS slate and we talk about our favorite plays. And this type of conversation that we're having is the same type of conversation, especially in Mike's case, that we're having with the NFL DFS slate. I say that to tell you the following. Soul Lifer wants to know, well, listen, you're doing all these simulations, you got 5,000 lineups that you're simulating and, getting all the negative and positive value. How do you actually whittle it down to the few lineups that you play? Because you do the same thing on the NFL side as well.
Yeah, every sport really, even every night in Major League Baseball. So out of that, a lot of those get deleted immediately. It does start that high, so I can get a huge sample. But basically the computer builds and replicates what the average field lineup's going to look like. So then we kind of simulate these lineups against those field lineups and whittle them out that way. But long story short, 4,500 or so of those get deleted immediately and does go down to like a 500 lineup pool. And then I'll start to run different thing, very manual at that point, right? So it's very much like looking at where I am on certain players, and it gets whittled down pretty quick, but I would say it's probably 20 to 50 lineups that ultimately land on the screen. And then I'm manually selecting what my eyes like from that point.
Okay. We got a few more questions in here we'll get to. If you have any last minute things you want to ask us, let us know, but let's go to, I want to go to Xavier 82. He has a couple of like comments and a question, but he does bring up Jackson Koivin. Did Jackson Koivin make it into any of your lineups, Mike?
He could, I want to say, Koivin. Wait, he must have an interest. Let's see. Right there, just a slight positive value. Another candidate for one that I would not remove if the computer put him in one of the lineups.
Yeah, and I know that Jason Sobel has been on the Jackson Koivin train for quite some time, and he likes him this week as well. I mean, he's certainly done pretty well on the PGA Tour so far in a short sample. Okay, so Xavier also says, can't decide between using Andrew Putnam or Chris Kirk. In Rick's model, he's talking about Rick Gaiman, of course. Monday, he had Putnam as his number one. And but Xavier's pointing out that Chris Kirk's been playing well recently. Chris Kirk's one of my outrights. My outrights are Grillo, Nikolai Højgaard, Chris Kirk, and then a couple of long shots on William Mao and David Lipsky. Mike, I like Kirk a lot. I think he has a pretty decent floor and pretty great upside. I think his upside's better than Andrew Putnam's. What's your thought on Putnam?
So I do like Putnam. I'm getting a lot of him. The price point is part of the reason. But I also like Kirk. I have positive values on both of those guys, which kind of speaks to what I've been saying all week. Honestly, there's just so many golfers in that 7K range, like 7K to 7,500. There's like 8 golfers that I am more than comfortable playing in my lineups. Now, as far as why Putnam ranks so well for me, he's absolutely elite in terms of bogey avoidance, and he's been awesome at hitting fairways. Now, as far as Kirk, he's just been solid everywhere. Like, he is just not hurting me in any category. So you can make the argument that he's just a more talented and well-rounded golfer. But because the skill set that I really care about is being in the fairway and not 3-putting, that's why I have a slight preference for Putnam.
So interesting comment from Jordan. We might close it here. Jordan Atienza says, C is the only person I've seen tout Nico Højgaard. Makes me feel great about my pick. So I assume that means, Jordan, you're on Nikolai Højgaard. Mike, this is one of those situations where I kind of love when this happens, because when you look at Nikolai Højgaard, the first thing you're going to do is say, ooh, I might have to cross him off. He's not super accurate off the tee. Now, he's played here twice. One time he was pretty great, and the other time he was terrible, specifically off the tee. And we've seen that from other bombers that have played this course. Some have played, like bettor has played here well once and very much not well other times. When I look at Nikolai Højgaard, I think you have said this to me. I've certainly, others have said it to me as well, where you might be bad in something, but if you're literally good everywhere else, I'm in, especially when no one's talking about you. So when I look at weighted ball striking, when I look at weighted tee to green, when I look at mid-iron play, which is going to be important here, he not only checks those boxes, but he checks them in such a significant way that I'm actually willing to overlook the thing that could completely derail him from the tournament. I concede that. But I mean, I just think he's kind of getting overlooked. Nobody knows which Højgaard to play and all this, but yeah. Nikolai seems like a guy that has tremendous upside.
It certainly has the upside. There's zero doubt about that. And I always I've mentioned a couple stats, fairways gained and greens and regulation gained. Those are not the same. Some players are very good in both of them. Some are not. He's just the exact opposite, which I'm okay with that. So he's like 147th in this field in fairways gained, but 4th in greens and regulation. So it's just, it's part of the game, right? But when I see that 4 in greens and regulation, that has me far less concerned about not hitting fairways, right? If he's still finding ways to hit greens, I'm going to be okay with that, right? And we've seen the ability to make birdies. So, and frankly, the price point, 7,900, like the sevens are popular, but all the action in the sevens is 7 flat to 75. I don't think there's much action above 7,500 in that range. So yeah, I like it.
And again, he's proven it here before to some degree. He had a miscut last year, but a T14 the year prior. And again, the miscut last year, he was terrible off the tee, but the T14 he wasn't. And again, if he can just manage this course as opposed to try to out hit the course, he's doing everything else so well that I think he might be in really good shape. I actually wanted to include him as a sixth first round leader, but I thought 6 was a little much. He's also going out in the afternoon, but if you want to dabble in that market as well, I think he has, or maybe the showdown market, I think Nikolai has a pretty tremendous upside. All right, Mike, that's pretty much going to do it. Any sort of closing thoughts here as we wrap up?
No, just tune into CBS Sports HQ in an hour and a half or so. We'll be on there sharing a few more plays. Simulations, as always, are up on SportsLine if you want to see where I have every golfer ranked in the field. And look forward to sweating out some outrights with everybody on Sunday.
And by the way, not only will I be on HQ with you in about an hour and a half, but on Friday, we have the early edge at 12 o'clock, but we have the early wedge at 1 o'clock. So that's going to be kind of cool because it's going to be in the middle of, this is Friday, in the middle of round 2. So we're going to have a chance to kind of talk about the cut line. It can be a little bit of a cut sweat, but live outrights, maybe FedEx implications and maybe Ryder Cup implications, all those things. We're going to check a lot of those boxes. That's going to be on CBS Sports Network at 12 o'clock for the early edge, 1 o'clock for the early wedge. So that's an early wedge network show. And then, of course, this YouTube channel right here, Sunday at 10:30, we're going to be hitting live outrights and live bets for round 4. Chris Schelt says, hey, guys, how about a flyer for David Ford? He did pop it in a couple things for me. Ultimately, I'm not playing him. UNC alumni, says Chris. But I mean, if you want to take a flyer on a guy like that, that's fine. I just think there's flyers to take on so many other guys. We mentioned some of them. I mentioned some of them on the DFS show Monday. So go back and check that one out, Chris. All right, Mike. Thanks, man. I know you've had a busy day. I know it's going to continue to be busy. Thanks for joining me today. Josh, thank you on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s for handling everything behind the scenes. We're going to see you on camera very soon because you like to pop in on this show and impart a ton of great insight. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thanks for hitting the like button. Thanks for being a part of this experience. We'll see you soon. This is The Early Wedge.